BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Lamont, and this is the Scottish Football Podcast, keeping you up to speed with everything you need to know about the national game. It's Thursday the 12th of September, and today we're focusing mainly on the always entertaining Championship.
By Holt. Oh my goodness me! Wow!
Who'll come out on top in the Fife derby? Also, can Ayr United and Falkirk maintain their impressive starts with a couple of tricky-looking fixtures?
Henderson couldn't get any purchase on the shot. He might get another crack at it, though he does! And he takes full advantage second time around!
And beyond the Championship.
You look at Ronaldo still doing it. He's older than me, so yeah, I don't see why not. I just think you've got to keep trying, knocking away, and then see how it goes in the next couple of years. But I'd like to think I'll give it a good bash.
250 not out. We hear from the Peterhead striker with 250 league goals to his name.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Yes, well, I'm joined for this edition of the Football Podcast by one man who's making his debut, another veteran. First of all, it's welcome to Callum Morris, formerly of Dundee United, Ross County and also Dunfermline. Nice to have you on, Callum. How are you?
Very good, yeah. Nice to be here. Nice to make my debut. Looking forward to it.
Good stuff. And also alongside you is a man who knows the Championship well, Ryan Stevenson, formerly of Ayr, Partick Thistle and Wraith Rovers, among many others. How are you this morning, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm good, but not great to be called a veteran, obviously. It makes me feel my age.
Well, it's all about the wisdom that comes with that. So lots to discuss with Ryan and Callum, but before all that, let's quickly run through the latest Scottish football headlines. The Scottish FA's new head of refereeing, Willie Callum, said that officials got two major decisions wrong in the opening 4 weeks of the new season. Scotland defender Liam Cooper has joined the Bulgarian side CSK Sofia. The 33-year-old defender was a free agent after ending a 10-year spell with Leeds United in June. Hibs winger Abby Ferguson has been named SWPL Player of the Month for August. The 20-year-old scored one goal and contributed 3 assists in their 5 games last month. And a potential move to Besiktas for Rangers captain James Tavernier could now be off the table after the Turkish Football Federation opted to stick by current rules around the number of non-Turkish squad members. Well, we'll get on to the Championship in a moment, but first let's get the guys' thoughts on one of the stories in the headlines there regarding the two major decisions wrong in the opening 4 weeks of the season, according to Willie Callum. Callum, we'll begin with yourself. What have you made of what Willie Callum had to say?
I suppose it's good that they're being transparent when they're coming out and giving a bit of clarity on decisions to everyone in the public domain. But I think the two specific big ones for me were both Stonewall penalties. I'm not too sure how they weren't giving us penalties on the day. So, yeah, great they're coming out and admitting faults, but the faults that probably shouldn't be there in the first place for me.
Ryan, Callum mentions the word transparency, and we've now got this the monthly show that the SFA are putting on their YouTube channel, the VAR Review. Do you think that is a good idea? Willie Collins, come in and he wants the decision-making process to be more clear for fans and clubs alike.
Yeah, listen, I think transparency across the board, whether that's with referees or behind the scenes in clubs, is good for fans. I think that it's good to educate fans. I think it's good to keep fans in the loop with everything that's happening. I just find VAR very frustrating. I think how far down the line are we, and it's still referees coming out and we've made mistakes, and it's as if it's sort of just becoming acceptable now that as long as we admit we've made mistakes, then at least we're admitting we're making mistakes. And I get that we're all human, we're going to make mistakes, but it was brought in for a reason of trying to help us make the game better, make the game more streamlined. And I think it's done everything but at times. I think the decisions that they've got wrong, and he's admitted they've got wrong, really shouldn't be the case or be happening. I think especially the Kilmarnock one, you can see, I think for me, we spoke on off air there about Mikey Stewart saying that the contact was going into the box. I think MD, who's played the game, understands that. And I find it very frustrating, mate. I really do.
It's interesting you say that, actually, because I totally get the frustrations that people have with VAR, and I think everyone probably shares them. But it strikes me, Callum, that at the start of the season, those two big incidents aside, that there's been a bit less controversy around VAR in Scotland, and maybe it's beginning to, people are beginning to get it a bit more. It's becoming a bit more streamlined. Would you go along with that?
I think it probably is. I think with the lag from it being introduced compared to the other big leagues in Europe, probably added to the ambiguous nature of it all, and people question what's going to happen when it comes in. And there has been a few decisions, but on the whole, like Willie said that in his interview, I think they have made a lot of the right decisions, but everyone will focus on the big negatives. And everyone likes a talking point, and that's what fans will talk about in the pub after the game is what was made wrong. And it's definitely better than maybe it was last season, but like Ryan's saying, there's still a lot to iron out for me.
Yeah. One of the incidents that they did talk about, Ryan, was the Cyril Dessers goal against St Johnstone, which was, at the time, I remember doing the commentary of that. It was quite confusing, actually, because and Willie Collum has been, I think, critical of Matthew McDermott, the referee's body language in the lead up to it, but he does say that ultimately the correct process was followed and the correct decision reached. Are you satisfied with the kind of overall assessment of that one?
Yeah, I think there's probably much the same as you. When you watched it happen, I think everybody was just had a bit of confusion, and I think it was obviously the body language of the referee. It kind of looked as if he didn't really know what was happening, and it all just got very messed up, very muddled. And then obviously the interviews after it with Craig Levine, and it just sort of rolled on. And again, I genuinely want football to be better. Me personally, I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to that. I liked football the way it was. I do understand that it does help. And I think with the Rangers situation, I think the clarity when they come out and they actually explain it bit by bit, it helped me. Certainly when it actually got broke down and you kind of understood it and why they came to the decision they came to. But I think we want to try and get it better. I think obviously, like us as players, Callum would admit that. I'll remember that and admit that as well. We could always be better, and I think for the referees, they can always be better. And it's just a process. I think it wasn't an ideal situation, and I think obviously it's a big game. It was at Hampden. There was a lot of frustration round about Rangers at the time. St Johnstone were pretty much in the game, and I think all of that just compounded into this one big melee at the end of the game. But ultimately, I think they did get to the right decision. It was just a bit of a mess getting there, which is the frustrating part. Because obviously before VAR, it was a penalty, there wasn't a penalty, and then we went to the pub after it, we all discussed it, we fell out with our mates, and then we went to the game next year, and we hoped it next week, and we hoped it all ironed itself out across the season. But to answer your question, yeah, they got there, but it was a long-winded, like my conversation here, it was long-winded going round the houses to get there.
Right, let's move on to the main event, somewhere that is refreshingly VAR-free, I suppose, the Scottish Championship, back after the short break for the Challenge Cup last week. And we'll start with Dunfermline Raith Rovers, a game you can see live on the BBC Scotland channel from 7:30 on Friday night. Callum, a couple of teams who are not in the best of form, I think it's fair to say. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there. It's bottom two, isn't it? Go head to head. But it's like the old adage, I think, form goes out the window for a derby game. And obviously for Dunfermline off the back of losing the first big derby at East End to Falkirk earlier in the season, which would have been a sore one. They kind of due a big performance, especially off the back of last season losing so many of these derbies. So I would like to think they can put something together and get a win, for the fans especially, because they have a huge back in there. So hopefully it can be a win for Dunfermline come Friday night.
You were telling me prior to recording that that's the fixture you made your Dunfermline debut in. Is it an atmosphere that people can sometimes thrive in, but also sometimes go missing in, depending on the characters involved?
I think so. I think It is. It's a big derby for that part of the country, and there will be a big crowd there. I think some of the games you play in, maybe the crowds aren't as big, and I think as a player, Ryan will be the same. You want to play in the big games, you want to play in front of big crowds. So I would like to think everyone will up their game a little bit, due to the atmosphere and due to being on TV and being a Friday night. It's got everything it needs to be an exciting game, and hopefully, like I say, my own biased opinion is that hopefully Dunfermline can come away with 3 points and get and kickstart their season.
Ryan, I think Wraith Rovers' start to the season has particularly surprised a lot of people. Just one win in the league, and obviously a change of manager, and so on. Are you surprised by their poor start to the campaign?
No, I always thought it was going to be a bit difficult for them after last year. I think they had, and that was even if Ian had stayed. I think that the way they sort of crashed out at the end last year was difficult for them. And I think sometimes when you come back, it's 2 years in a row, and you come back and you try and bounce again, it was always going to be difficult. I think obviously the situation with the manager is compounding that. I think then the saga behind they went for 1 guy, 2 guys, 3 guys, 4 guys, that can then affect players as well, because as a player you're sitting in a changing room, you don't really have any leader, and you're hearing that this manager's turned it down, this manager's turned it down. It can be, you might not think it might affect you, but it can. As a group, obviously Niels came in, and I think last week, obviously against Ayr, they got off to the best possible start they could, been 2-0 up, and then Ayr coming back and winning 3-2. So I think for both clubs they'll try and use it as a catalyst to try and kickstart their seasons. They'll go into training this week, as Callum says, going into a derby, everything goes out the window. And I think if you're a manager on both sides, you'll be sitting saying, right, let's go get a good result, and then let's use this as a springboard to try and, kick our season on and get back up the leagues. 2 massive clubs, 2 great clubs, and obviously Dunfermline are a bit of a mess just now off the park. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I love derby games, so for me, obviously Callum's Dunfermline, I would hope the Wraith Rovers can go and get something out of the game. Would
you anticipate, Callum, it being a bit of a scrap? I mean, realistically, the 3 points are all that matters. No one really cares how they get them, do they?
No, I don't, and especially the circumstances both clubs sit in at the minute, like Ryan touched on, both off the pitch and on the pitch. I think and the bragging rights, especially for the fans, is a huge thing. So I'd imagine it might start off being a bit of a cagey affair with people not wanting to lose the game. But I think it should open up as time goes on, and both teams are going to be desperate for the 3 points to stick on the table, and also for the fans to go home happy, and like we've touched on, to be a bit of a catalyst going forward for the rest of the season, because there's no better game to win to kind of give you a bit of a boost going into the rest of the campaign.
And Ryan, just to finish up on this one, James McPake's obviously had been under a bit of pressure previously, but he knows the league so well. He did a brilliant job at Dundee, and but I think everyone anticipates this being a bit of a struggle for him and Dunfermline this season, don't they?
Yeah, mate. Could you imagine actually doing James's job? I mean, it'd be so difficult now just looking after a group of players, I think, and you have to be so reactive with injuries, suspensions, and he now has all this stuff behind him going on, not knowing where the back end, and people sometimes get that is the most important part, is see behind the scenes of the club. If you have stability behind the scenes, it then just filters through into the manager, the coaching staff, into the players. Everybody feels sort of settled. I can only imagine what his Monday to Friday, he must get to a Saturday and just think, at least you can just concentrate on the football for 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. It must be such a difficult job for him, and I don't think people can lose sight of that. For a young manager as well, who's trying to make his way in the game, for everything that he's probably having to deal with Monday to Friday, I think the job he's done is incredible.
Right, let's move on to some of the other fixtures, and we'll stick with you, Ryan, for this one. Ayr United against Partick Thistle. Terrific start to the season, clearly, for Ayr United. I was at the Thistle Alloa game at the weekend, and they were just poor, particularly second half. It's a big game for both these sides, but I mean, Ayr United clearly go into that one as big favourites, don't they?
Yeah, listen, Ayr just need to keep doing what they're doing, one game at a time. I think, obviously we've got good connections in the Ayr, and everybody's raving about Scott and Stephen and the job they're doing, which quite rightly so. going on about the Dunfermline thing, Ayr United off the park are making tremendous strides, and I think all of that married together, we're now starting to see the sort of full package and the full product, and the work that Scott's putting in. I think he's relentless. I've heard numerous things about how the standards that he sets at the club are so high. The players have bought into it, and you're seeing that go onto the pitch. I mean, again, obviously saying about last weekend, being 2-0 down and coming back and winning 3-2, just typifies exactly, I think, his attitude, the way he was as a player, transforming into the way he is as a manager, then going through into his players. And as for Thistle, I think Thistle, much like Wraith Rovers, are struggling from the hangover of last year.
Yeah.
3
seasons in a row they've missed out in the playoffs, isn't it? So yeah,
I mean, it's a lot to take on. It's how can you do it another season, and then at some stage something I'll need to give. And I love Dales to bits. He's a good friend of mine, and I hope that they pick up results, and I hope they start getting back in the form that they could be and they should be. But hopefully it's just not this Saturday.
Callum, on another team who have built up terrific momentum at the start of this season, taking it on from last year, are Falkirk, right on Ayr's coattails. They're away to Airdrie. On the face of it, that looks like a big test, albeit Airdrie probably haven't started this season as well as they would have hoped to.
No, I think so. I think they've probably taken back to the championship as well as they could have, and I think that was important, that they kind of harnessed all the good stuff from last season and win the league and go in so many games unbeaten and taking into this season. And it will be a big test because like last season again, Airdrie were fantastic, but they've lost a few players and the consistency's maybe not been there at the start of the season. So I think every game's going to be a test for them and see how far they can go with this momentum. But from what I've seen in this season, they're looking good. They've got a good squad there, got a really young squad, but full of talent. It should be a good game. Two teams that play really good football as well.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Also on Saturday with Morton away to Queen's Park, and then Livingston hosting Hamilton. Ryan, I wonder if both of those two teams have started quite well, 3rd and 4th respectively. Maybe they came into the season with people anticipating them maybe being at the other end of the table, but they've both started quite brightly, haven't they?
Yeah, I thought Hamilton would probably struggle. I think just with the budget they have, and it's a young squad, and I just thought that maybe a big step up for Hamilton. Livingston, I thought Livingston would struggle, to be honest with you. I think the fact that they had lost a lot last year, and then you come down and it's a difficult division, the Championship, but they're actually kind of just flying under the radar just now. I think they made a few decent signings of obviously bring Ryan McGowan in, boys with experience. And they're just kind of quietly going about their business, and I think that will suit them. I think they'll be quite happy just chipping away every single week. They'll be looking to get straight back up, make no doubt about that. And I think for Hamilton, I think as long as Hamilton stay in the division, they can build on season after season. And I think for John as well, being a young manager who was under a bit of pressure as well at the start, I think the two of them are doing really, really well just now. They just need to keep chipping away, both clubs.
Okay, after scoring Peterhead's 4-0 win over Edinburgh City recently, Rory McAllister became just one of 3 players to score 250 league goals in Scotland's top 4 divisions since World War II. And now one of those he joined in that illustrious list, Ali McCoist, has sent him his congratulations. To find out how it feels to have reached such an incredible landmark, Tyrone Smith caught up with Rory.
Well, Rory, you've joined the 250 League Goals Club. Very simply, just tell us how it feels.
Yeah, I think it's a great achievement, obviously for me and obviously my family and stuff. And it's good, yeah. It's obviously a lot more for my son and my mum and dad who come every week still. And obviously, it's like I say, it's good obviously to be recognised for things like this. But it's good. And
it's just been a terrific career. But the landmark that we're talking about, you're in pretty impressive company. You've got Gordon Wallace just above you, and then you've got Ali McCoist just ahead of you. I mean, just to be mentioned, I guess, in the same kind of breath as a legend in Scottish football like that must be pretty special for you.
Yeah, it's a good company to be in, and it's like I say, it's a good achievement. I didn't really think how good it was until the last few days when I've kind of looked into it and thought about it. It's like 80 years, and not a lot of other people have done. Nobody else has done it. So it's pretty good to have done it, and obviously, like I say, it's be good to look back on in a few years' time.
You mentioned Ali McCoist there. Can you catch him?
Yeah, I think so. I keep playing. I think so, and let's give him a refocus this and just maybe reboot, and then maybe try and play him about a couple more years, and why not? Yeah, well, let's give it a good go and hopefully catch him. I think the last season and a half, it's kind of been thinking, is it time to maybe call it a day? Maybe every end of the season, you think, is it going to be the year? But I think maybe with this in my sights now, I think, why not? I can still physically feel good. I can still get about the park and stuff. Maybe lost a bit of pace still, but yeah, I still think I can contribute enough, and hopefully if I play in a team that's good enough, like I say, I think you're only as good as your teammates most of the time, a striker. And the team I'm playing right now is really good, so why not just play a couple more years, score some goals, and it'd be unbelievable to get to number one. If I play in a team, it creates chances, and I don't reason why I can't score goals. The goals are the same size they were 10 years ago, so I don't think you lose that. I think you lose a bit of sharpness and pace, but if the ball's getting put in a plate for you, you look at Ronaldo still doing it, and he's older than me, so yeah, I don't see why not. I just think you've got to keep trying, knocking away, and then see how it goes in the next couple of years, but I'd like to think I'll give it a good bash.
Rory McAllister there, guys. Some career he's had. I think I'm right in saying, Ryan, that he could have stayed, he could have turned full-time a few times, but generally speaking, he's opted to stay part-time, and I guess that goal-scoring record probably proves he made the right decision.
Yeah, I think there's a good story in all of this. I think the fact that for young kids coming through, the fact that he understood that he had a really good trade behind him. I think he's a plumber or an electrician, one of the two. But he understood that he had a really good trade behind him. He understood that long term that trade would probably be beneficial for him more than going full time and maybe taking a chance. That was his personal thoughts behind it. And I actually, at the time, I thought, wow, that's a big decision to make when you've all of us, Callum, the same as me. If you get the chance of going to a higher level, you would jump at it, and everything logically with football, you know that yourself, Alistair, goes out the window, and you just think, I'm going to the highest level I possibly can. So I thought it was a really brave decision. But I mean, to score on the park, I think he found a club where the likes of Peterhead just totally suits him. I know he's been away and he's come back, but mate, to score 250 goals at any level is an incredible achievement. He obviously still got more to come, but 250 goals is absolutely wild.
Yeah, he's still banging in the goals at 37 and aiming, I suppose, for that McCoist record of 282. Callum, you wouldn't back against him, would you?
No, not at all. I think his record speaks for itself, doesn't it? I think Ryan's right. I think when you find a home in football and somewhere that you feel like's a home, it can be a really good thing. And obviously Peterhead, I know he's, like we said, he's been away and back again, but it's obviously suits him down to the ground, and he's producing goal after goal after goal there. Yeah, and I wouldn't put it past him. He's a bit of a maverick. He's got a lot in his locker for someone who maybe hasn't played to the height that his potential potentially could have. But yeah, fair play to him, because that's some record.
Well, that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. Many thanks to debutant Callum Morris and Ryan Stevenson, and thank you for listening. Remember, you can watch Dunfermline against Wraith on the BBC Scotland channel from 7:30 on Friday. Sports Sound on BBC Radio Scotland will have all the live action as always across the weekend, and Sports Scene will bring you the highlights on Saturday, Sunday and Monday evenings. And of course, we'll be here with the Scottish Football Podcast every day, so to be alerted when new episodes are out, subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on your phone. Bye for now.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.